Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Have you wondered why both the BJP and the opposition parties seem all fired up over the Citizenship Amendment Act, the National Population Register and the National Register for Indian Citizens? Both have their viewpoints, and we have been witnessing this debate since the last winter session when the CAA was passed, when the Citizenship Amendment Bill was passed and became a law. Now, in any side, in any debate, you would see one party losing the argument and piping down, and another one emerging as a victor. Here you see both sides behaving like victors. Neither side is ready to pipe down on these issues. Why is it that both sides are gloating over these protests against the CAA? Now, let me give you their viewpoints. I mean, if you look at it from the Congress party angle or from the opposition party's angle, why they see a victory here is, I mean, as we saw today, Sonia Gandhi presided over a meeting of 20 opposition parties to discuss these issues. And in her address, she said that, CAA and NRC are just the trigger, are the immediate triggers. But it's the pent-up frustration of the youth with the state of affairs, with the economic slowdown, that is coming out now. That's opposition's outlook. Now, opposition, it's a bit ironical, but fact is opposition is kind of seeing a repeat of what happened with Indira Gandhi in 1970s. You know how she came back, how she got a renewed mandate in 1971. Then we had a war over Bangladesh liberation. Then all these things kept happening. She was right at the height of popularity, and then you had this economic slowdown and major unemployment problems. Inflation was up. You had students' agitation all over. Navnirman Andolan in Gujarat, you must have heard. Then you had agitations in Bihar, everywhere. So by 74, she was looking like totally vulnerable. In 75, and all these issues kind of added up together, kept boiling, and one trigger came through Allahabad High Court ruling where Indira Gandhi's election was invalidated. Her election was declared null and void. And then we saw how she imposed emergency in the country. So what the opposition is saying now, ironically, as I said, including the Congress, they see the same script being played out again. So we are witnessing a slowdown today, economic slowdown today. Unemployment is the worst in the last 40 years. Then you have all these agitations by youth, by students in different universities. So the opposition sees a chance, the possibility of a repeat. And they think that, there are spontaneous protests everywhere. People are coming out on the roads. People are protesting against CAA. I mean, all over the country, you see protests and everything. That's why opposition is all fired up. Because they had no issues earlier. They were not really getting any public support. Don't forget, just 7 months back, they were routed in the Lok Sabha elections. Their spirit was down. They were down and out. They looked down and out. Today, suddenly, they have got a new leash of life. At least that's what they think. Come to the BJP camp, talk to BJP leaders. They're all fired up. They were a bit concerned in the beginning by some spontaneous reactions everywhere. When they saw people coming out on the roads and protesting against it. But since then, they have been able to basically control the narrative. Now, it's ruling party leaders you keep hearing about CAA, its impact, and how it is meant to help non-Muslims from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh who are persecuted there, who have come to India. So basically the ruling party's argument is that Hindus or Hindu refugees from these countries who are persecuted in those countries, the government wants to give them citizenship. So there is nothing wrong. So though there are people from 6 religions who come under the ambit of CAA, but as you know, the way the BJP's ideological construct is, it's basically the Hindus on whom their entire focus is. And they are saying that, look, we are not denying any right to Muslims. We are just giving this citizenship right to people who have been persecuted in those countries. And the BJP seems to be getting support, or at least that's the party's assessment. From West Bengal to all over the country, though you still see a lot of protests happening in Hyderabad, in different parts of the country, the BJP thinks that there is a very limited section of people who are coming out on the roads. And the party thinks they are not spontaneous. These protests are not spontaneous. these protests are basically organized by the opposition parties. And so the ruling party's assessment is that a large majority of Indians are basically supporting the government on these issues. And it works for them if the debate keeps happening. And don't forget, there are other issues to be talked about. Now, economic slowdown we have discussed, unemployment we have discussed. Now, these are issues on which the government finds itself vulnerable at this stage. So it doesn't mind discussing CAA and any other divisive issues that opposition wants to take up. And that's why both parties are all fired up, as I said. We will discuss it further, but let's take a few questions sent by our viewers.
Akash from Assam asks, can CAA be revoked now if BJP decides to do so? What is the possible cutoff date for nationwide NRC?
Akash, first of all, it's a law. Citizenship Amendment Bill was passed by Parliament, and that's how it has become CAA. Now, if the BJP wants to withdraw it, there's a big if. It will have to go back to the Parliament. And as we discussed just now, the BJP is not going to go back on this. Amit Shah, the Home Minister and the Prime Minister, they have been repeatedly asserting that there is no going back. So there is no cutoff date for the NRC. For the Citizenship Amendment Act, what has been provided for is, if you have these refugees coming from these three countries, who came to India by 30th of December 2014, they would be eligible for Indian citizenship. Now, under the Citizenship Act of 1955, the process of naturalization through which you become a citizen, you as a refugee need to spend 12 years in the country to apply for citizenship through the process of naturalization. What this act has done, it has shortened the period to 5 years, but that is for CAA only. NRC, there is no debate. We are having a lot of debate on NRC, but no rules have been framed. Nothing has been done about NRC so far.
Hello, my name is Shashank, and I would like to ask that what is the difference between the NRC and CAA, which is stated now and which was stated previously?
Shashank, the difference between the two is the CAA basically is for giving citizenship to Hindu, Jains, Parsis, Christians, people from 6 religions who are persecuted in Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan. CAA gives them citizenship if these people have come to India before 31st of December 2014. Muslims have been excluded from this because they are talking about persecuted minorities. NRC is, that is National Register of Indian Citizens, that will basically identify who are the bona fide residents of the country and who are illegal immigrants. Say for instance, you have Muslims coming from Bangladesh, Muslims coming from Pakistan or from any other country. If they are here, they will be identified as illegal immigrants, and they will not be covered under CAA because CAA gives citizenship to only non-Muslims. NRC has a different yardstick here. So people who are not Muslims, they will be covered anyway, they will get Indian citizenship. But Muslims who are again refugees who might have entered India illegally, they won't be able to avail themselves of this provisions under the CAA because they are not covered. So they will become illegal immigrants, and then the government will take a call whether to deport them or whether to put them in detention centers.
And my second question, why the BJP government is implementing this NRC or CAA to India right now? Why? Is there anything about the timing?
As for the second part of the question, Shashank, the timing was more about the BJP's victory in the Lok Sabha elections. In May, the BJP came back with a thumping majority, 303 seats in 543-member Lok Sabha. Opposition was totally demoralized, shattered, and that was the time the BJP thought it should push ahead with all the contentious legislation because opposition was totally scattered. And we saw how most of the non-BJP parties came on board and voted for the CAA. Some of them might have changed their stand later, but then in the House when the debate was on, some of them, even if they had issues, they would stage a walkout, they wouldn't vote for it, but most of them did not oppose it at all. That was the impact of the Lok Sabha elections 2019. So the idea was, before the opposition parties regroup and start challenging the government and also gain support from non-NDA parties, before situation comes to that, get all the contentious legislations out. That's the plan.
Dr. H.C. Bhatt, Rishikesh, hello, these protests are for what? Are they justified?
Dr. Bhatt, all I would say is, in a democracy, all protests are justified as long as people are not resorting to violent means. So people may have a different point of view. I mean, I or you may or may not agree with the CAA. But if there are people who have reservation against this, they have the right to protest. That's what our democracy is all about.
Hi, I'm Justin from Kerala. Do you think BJP government deliberately created a misunderstanding in the public about CAA and NRC for some other plan?
Justin, that was not the initial plan. As we understand, the initial plan was to get the citizenship amendment bill passed by Parliament. NPR is already there. You have NRC in place. Now, the plan was post-CAA, these things will be pushed. And opposition, as we discussed earlier, the opposition looked so shattered and so splintered that the government did not expect any resistance. But then there were protests outside, and many sections of the people came out on the roads and started protesting. And that forced the government to revise its stand. So you saw how the Prime Minister basically rebutted what the Home Minister had said. The Home Minister was very clear that after CAA you have NPR and then NRC, that's the BJP's agenda. But the Prime Minister said no, we'd never discussed it in the cabinet meeting, we'd never discussed it in the government, which of course it was never formally discussed. But that was what the Home Minister had said. That was the plan also. So after the Prime Minister's clarification, the government has been trying to do a climb down, basically saying that as of now, NRC is not on the agenda. And mind you, the Home Minister said, mind the language the Home Minister used while clarifying. As of now, it is not on the agenda. Whenever it happens, we'll see. So the government has not ruled it out as such. It's about the timing. So right now, you have protests happening, you have opposition parties out on the roads. Well, let's take a deep breath, wait for a while. Once these protests die down, we can do it, because you don't have to go back to Parliament to get its approval for NRC. It can be done anytime the government wants. And NPR is the first step towards NRC. Some states are opposing NPR also, but let's see how it plays out.
Hi, this is Aniket. I want to ask you that don't you think Modi's government was planning to launch Assam's NRC to the whole country, but later backed off after seeing enormous protests against NRC and CAA?
Aniket, yes, the government did plan to launch the NRC, or at least many ministers, including Home Minister Amit Shah, said that in as many words, that NRC will follow. After that, of course, there were protests, and as we all know how the government did a climb down. But let me repeat, it's temporary. Government has not given up on NRIC yet. Nobody has said that. They may be looking for a convenient time.
And also, was it not wrong on their part to prove that Muslims are illiterate and that they've joined the protest without knowing even the basics about CAA or NRC?
As for your second question, no, the government has not really called Muslims illiterate. Nobody has even suggested that. Nobody in the government has suggested that. But yes, their explanation that you do not understand what the CAA is about, that's a bit misleading, because the government did intend to go for NRC after the CAA. They might have changed it later, but that was the position then.
This is Adrian David from Chennai. My first question to DK Suresh, the left-led Kerala government has passed a resolution against Citizenship Amendment Act in the State Legislative Assembly. Are there chances of other non-BJP ruled states following suit?
Adrian David, yes, Kerala has passed the resolution, and there is a possibility that some other states may follow suit. Though we haven't got any indication from any state yet, or we haven't got any formal announcement from anybody so far. But yes, as the Congress said after its working committee meeting a few days back, Congress ruled the states won't be implementing it. But passing a resolution doesn't really matter, because it's a central law. Even if you pass a resolution, you have no role here. Only technically, yes, because when you apply for citizenship, the claims you have made in the petition have to be verified by state agencies, say the state police. So there you might create trouble, but you cannot be opposing a central law. You cannot prevent its implementation. These are all political statements, be it this resolution or all the big pronouncements we'll get. But whether opposition party or opposition ruled states pass a resolution or not, they are just political. On the ground, when it comes to implementation, they don't mean much beyond what I said. The complications you might try to create in giving citizenship in terms of verifying the details that the applicants have sent to you.
My second question is, most of the nationwide anti-CAA, anti-NRC protests are led by common people, and they are leaderless and not affiliated to any political parties. Is this a plus or a minus?
Adrian, as for the second part of your question, yes, as long as these protests were spontaneous, it was a big plus for the opposition. And that was why you saw the government climbing down a bit and putting the NRC project on the back burner. But the moment you see political parties getting involved, and today also you have 20 opposition parties meeting over this, and they are planning the future programs. But the moment you have the opposition parties joining the stir and hitting the streets on this, the entire issue will get complicated. So you have large section of liberal India today opposing it, because denying a particular community, denying Muslims a right. And that's why you see people reading out the preamble of the constitution, because you cannot be discriminatory. But then the moment you have these political parties kind of jumping into the fray, the entire thing will get complicated, and the basic issue, the basic objection, which will kind of get eroded in times to come.
My third question is, many regional parties, including the JDU, YSRCP and BJD, had earlier voted for the CAA but now are opposing the NRC. What made them backtrack?
As for your third question, yes, many regional parties backtracked, be it YSRCP or JDU. But that was obviously because that was the BJP's assessment also. They saw these spontaneous protests all over. So they could see liberal India rising up in arms against it. And they felt threatened, because if you have a large section of people protesting against it, you have to do a rethink on these issues. But gradually, as you see these protests kind of petering out some places, you see these parties making a somersault again. Now today, for instance, you have Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar saying in the assembly that, okay, if you have some issues about CAA, let's have a debate in the assembly. Just 2 days back, you had Vice President of the JDU, Prashant Kishore, congratulating Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Vadra for formally opposing the CAA and NRC. And then you see the Chief Minister raising some kind of doubt. JDU is not actually convinced about the opposition to the CAA. Even for NPR, Nitish Kumar has said that, that is something that has been there since 2010. It was the UPA government which had actually cleared this. So Nitish Kumar is quoting that. So he is taking the BJP line on that. On NRC, he is still clear that it will not be implemented. So the way you see the JDU revising its stand again, I won't be surprised if you see similar things coming from other parties again.
This is Rohan from Pune. According to you, should the illegal immigrants who did not face religious persecution be given citizenship? For example, Muslim immigrants that have come for the economic opportunity.
Rohan, I would say let's be fair, let's follow our constitution. Our constitution does not allow us to do any discrimination in the name of religion. Now CAA is actually discriminatory. So when you are considering these refugees, we don't even know whether they are persecuted. This is what we are told. They have to prove it first. But anyway, when you are considering citizenship for any refugee, why should his or her religion be a consideration? A refugee is a refugee. Somebody has been persecuted in some other country. And if we are considering citizenship for the Indian citizenship for them, let's treat them at par, equally. Why to bring religion into it? That's my personal take.
Hi, my name is Mukesh and I'm from Patiala, Punjab. My question is it fair to defame Hindus while protesting against CAA and NRC? These protesters equate RSS with terrorist organizations, Nazi Party and Pragya Thakur with Kasab. They try hard to justify Islamic terrorism by coining the term fascist Hindutva agenda. Is it fair? Won't it further divide the Indian community?
Well, because that cannot be justified. What is fascist Hindutva? I don't even understand what it means. Nor do I understand this Islamic terrorism. And what is Islamic terrorism? Terror is terror. So I don't subscribe to that. Just as I don't subscribe to what you call Tukli Tukli gang or urban Naxals. I don't know what these terms mean. So these are just vague terms being used by different sections to voice out their anger and frustration. I don't really read much into it. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Politically Correct. Please keep watching and please keep sending us questions. Thank you.